First, I want to thank Arts Nova Scotia, Chester Art Center, and especially want to thank Kelly Barker, a colleague and a friend who, well, has been my second set of eyes, sometimes third, for the past year and a half. So she would get the text at 11 o'clock, something's wrong, I don't know what's wrong, I'm gonna panic. And she would bring me off the ledge. So thank you, Kelly. I didn't ask her permission, for her help. I just kind of made her do it. So this series started off as a bit of tongue-in-cheek with the watermelon. I love drawing or painting watermelon, and just the connection between Black folk and watermelon has always been a part of my life, almost so much so that there's certain situations I wouldn't eat it just because I didn't want that correlation. I didn't want to feel insecure. So I did that painting, and then it kind of moved into something bigger that I wasn't expecting. So this series has taken probably a year and a half, I think. COVID kind of jumbled everything. So I think I'm missing a year, but I'm not quite sure.
We all are.
Yeah. So it moved into something bigger for me, and something that was at times difficult to do because I would be going back into my childhood that some parts I just wanted to forget. But in order to kind of let go, you have to relive some of those experiences, and it's not always fun. But as a 50-plus-year-old, it's easier, and you can go back into your childhood. You can be angry, you can create the art, and then move on. All of this work is based on personal experience, and some of it quite hurtful that I still haven't let go from, but it doesn't consume me anymore. And so for a long time, these kind of issues absolutely consumed me, probably so much so that I kind of put it on my children. But I've learned to step back and then watch them grow in a society that is consumed with racial differences. Well, racial differences are great, but consumed with these stereotypes and judging people based on their skin color. I grew up in a very small community. In fact, it was a village in New Germany, outside of New Germany. It was my twin brother and I and the rest of our family. And we grew up on a little farm, and that farm was great. We had animals, we had everything. And then I went to school, and I think it was difficult. It was probably more difficult for my twin brother, but those experiences I've carried along with me, and in some cases had a deep hatred for the area. I don't hate the area. It's a wonderful place. It wasn't the place for me. My brother and I were the only Black kids there. And I think it was 1976, Roots came out. I can't do the math, but I think I was 7 or 8. I can do the math, but I'm not going to. I think I was 7 or 8. And there's one incident I remember. Actually, before I tell that story, I want to make it very clear that this work is not about feeling sorry for someone. It's about just bringing it out into the outer world. And these experiences are shared by some other Black folks. So they will come in here and they will say, yeah, I get it. So although these are based on my personal experiences, other Black folk probably experienced the same thing. So when Roots came out, and trying to remember which one it is, and I don't think it's here. Oh, yes, it would be this one. I remember I missed the bus, and I missed the bus because, well, or I was missing the bus. I was 8. So I'm running to catch the bus. That was a big mistake. As a child, I was always aware of what I was doing, how I was being perceived to the outer world. I was very much, I think, a wallflower because I didn't want people to notice me, especially in that school. So as I'm running to catch the bus, there's all these white faces hanging out the window yelling, "Run, Kizzy, run." Should I have seen that movie at 7? No, not at all. That movie shaped a lot of my experiences at New Germany Elementary School. And it kind of began a trajectory of my life with some of those people. Do I see those people anymore? Well, I try not to. I mean, I didn't even sub there. It's a lovely school. It's a wonderful school. It was not the school for me, especially with my brown skin. So a lot of those experiences come from that area. So this piece here, I know we've all seen, the blackface, white people pretending to be black, which is, in this day and age, we should know. Stop. But this is based on my own version of blackface, of being a Black child in a largely white, racist rural area and wanting to take that blackface off and be like everyone else. And not understanding why, not understanding how my whole being was, it was just a bad thing. I hated it. I wanted to be like everybody else, and I never would. And my brothers and sisters, they all did fine. My brother and I were adopted into a white family. And it was great. The stories we had growing up on a farm. But once we left the security of the farm, there's nothing they could do to help me or to help my brother. They could try, but we would internalize that and carry that with our adult life. So me trying to take off that black face mask stuck with me till I was about 30. And it was doing my master's degree at University of Saskatchewan, where I met a teacher, a professor, who said, "Rebecca, you've got to read these books," because I've never been introduced to what's out there. So I started reading, and I started accepting and liking who I was. I started saying, you know what? I don't care what you think. This is me. I want to be a proud Black woman. So that kind of began where I started doing my work. I did have a bit of an art career when, I don't know, 2000. It was so long ago. And I started doing work like that, not the paintings, because I'm not trained as a painter, but I started doing photography work and mixed media. And it just didn't hit the mark. And while I'm doing these paintings, I'm realizing I know why this isn't going anywhere. I know why this isn't meaning much to me. It's because I really had no real personal connection with it. So once I started having that personal connection, I started being able to create. I also had the voice to talk. When you're creating work about racism and you're afraid of your own voice and everybody around you, it's very difficult to create because you're so afraid of offending someone, whether it be your neighbor, someone in your family, and you don't want to do that. Now, I'm not a mean person, but maybe some people will find this work offensive, and that's okay. Not everybody's going to like it. Not everybody will understand my experiences. I want to bring you to this piece called Hora. So these two are the ones directly related to New Germany Elementary School. So in grade 3, and I'm just going to tell you the little stories. In grade 3, I think it was show and tell, not exactly sure, but I do remember bringing my Sasha doll. That is not the original Sasha doll. I think my sister has it somewhere. But it's still a black doll. Show and tell. So I brought my doll, and we got it at the doll house in Historic Properties. I don't know if anybody would remember that, but it was the best place to be. And they sold Sasha dolls, and we all had one. Even my brother, my youngest brother, had Gregor's Sasha doll. Loved them. So I brought my Sasha doll, and we were dressed the same because my mother could knit. So we had on the same outfit. I think, you know, as a kid, your memory kind of changes. Anyway, I brought my Sasha doll in. You know what? It's you. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to say it. Black people time.
You have to do it.
I did. So I brought Cora to the school for show and tell, and I loved Cora. She had very dark skin. She was beautiful. I loved her hair, and I had her in my little desk. You know those little desks you used to have, wooden desks. And this one boy, and he just said, look what she brought. That doll is black and ugly, just like her. And I hated that doll after that. I'm petty. I am, and I'll be the first to admit it. I will never forget that feeling, and I will never forget that boy, ever. I won't go search him out. Believe me, I know where he is. And so this painting, this one here is in particular very personal to me because it was hurtful, and I loved that doll. And then I no longer did because I didn't want to be black and ugly just like that doll, but I knew I would always be black and ugly just like that doll. I'm just going to go over like some of the paintings, if that's okay. A lot of people have asked about the goggles. Now, the goggles started off as, I like them. I am a big fan of steampunk. I am a big fan of the apocalypse. Would I survive? Like I tell my son, as long as my kids aren't there ruining everything, I might. But kids have a tendency to, you know, do stuff that hurts everybody else in those kind of movies. So I'm a big fan of that. But as I continued having them in the paintings, it suddenly dawned on me, there is a reason why I'm putting these in here. I'm not exactly sure, but then it's like, wait a minute. I know why these are here. It's because I'm continually navigating through an apocalyptic scene, a narrative that I'm trying to continually survive. Whether it's as the only black teacher at a school, the only black teacher in a pub, the only black person walking down the street, I am continually trying to survive. I am also continually on guard. Sometimes you don't live your life where you can just go about your daily business because you're always looking behind you. Especially in today's climate, it happens a lot more that you're always on guard. I try not to be, but it's become so ingrained. That is the reason for the goggles. That, and I like them, but it became part of the narrative I was telling. In the South Shore, I used to travel around and see how many Confederate flags and the lawn jockeys you could find. And yes, in the South Shore, you can find Confederate flags. Not sure why people have them. Not sure why people have the lawn jockeys. The lawn jockeys have been the bane of my existence for a long time. To see them in your neighborhood, sitting there all proud, like it's an ornament, with their white eyes and their red lips, which is part of the stereotype. And so I wanted to produce a piece that talked about my feelings about those. And I'm just kind of sitting there cradling this lawn jockey who's been placed in a space where it should never be. And I feel chained. I'm angry every time I see it here. And I actually used to have students a long time ago. And I never said they should do this, that they would go and search them out and so, you know, I'm sure there's some people who were missing them, but so that's where that piece came from. When I take my images, because I'm trained as a photographer, painting came later on after I learned how to paint. And so I set up all my images. I use self-portraits I use self-portraits mainly because of COVID. Searching out people to fit that narrative was very difficult. I'm also a bit of a control freak, and I like things done my way, especially when it comes to art. So partly because of COVID, I started using self-portraiture. Also, my love of Cindy Sherman, who's a photographer who creates different scenes with her self-portrait. So it's like, you know what, there's not a problem with me using myself. And I would make myself up, I would change my clothing, and I would create this scene for myself and then paint it and then change the mood through whatever colors I chose to use. So color becomes very important in every one of my paintings, whether it's bright or subdued. There's always, I'm fascinated by color schemes. You don't have to know the color schemes, but I'm just absolutely fascinated by them. So when I'm painting, yes, I have a color wheel out because, you know, I don't memorize that stuff, but I, you know, check all my colors to make sure they're exactly what I want. And some of these paintings have been, the colors have been changed at least 15 times over because something just wasn't right in it. I do have the 2 watermelon paintings, but the Oreo painting is directly based on being biracial in a Black community. And sometimes being biracial in a Black community, you get it from the white community and you get it from the Black community. You're too Black, you're not Black enough. And it was how to navigate your way through that. I've been called Oreo and zebra. I'm okay with that. I can live with that. But I wanted to include that piece because that was very much a part of my lived experience. When you grow up in a white community within a white family, yeah, I didn't know anything about being in a Black community. I didn't know any of the nuances. I wouldn't have been invited to the cookouts ever. But I think, you know, I found a place with myself there, which brings me to, this is actually one of my favorites, the Kentucky Fried Chicken. And so that's based on a painting called The Death of Marat. Loosely. So in that painting, I have the bonnet, and I am ashamed to say I learned about silk bonnets when I was 45. How come I didn't know about that? I should have had a silk bonnet a long time ago. If I did, I wouldn't have cut my hair short. My hair would have been nice and silky. And then the whole idea of Kentucky Fried Chicken in 2016, when something happened in the United States, all of a sudden there was all these jokes and memes of Obama and Kentucky Fried Chicken, and you know that they weren't nice. They weren't meant to be nice. I like myself a good KFC. I know how to cook it, and I know how to use spices. But I wanted to portray an image where I'm just sitting back, nice and relaxed, not a care in the world, eating my Kentucky Fried Chicken and a nice hot bath.
Thank you.
What?
Thank you very much.
For what?
Eat your chicken, girl.
But, and so a lot of these are made playful, and I had to make them playful because a lot of them are hurtful. For example, Aunt Jemima. I was 7. It was Halloween. Again, we're in Hempford. And it was always something, we always went out to trick or treat with the neighbors because our houses were like a mile apart from each other. Our parents would go. So we're at our farmhouse, we're right waiting to go, and we had this tickle trunk, and I think I was dressed up as a prince. I don't know, with some old suit, but it was great. I think there was a princess in there as well. And then our neighbor showed up. And I still remember that gut-wrenching feeling. I just wanted to crawl into a hole and die. And the neighbor girl, who was a couple years younger than me, showed up as Aunt Jemima, including with blackface. And I still remember, when I think about that now, my stomach feels sick because I'm looking at almost a parody that's not meant to be a parody, which is even worse because they don't know. And I'm looking at her with her coal on her face, with the caricatures that I try to hide from. This kid who's younger than me as Aunt Jemima. And then we have that whole, well, they changed the Aunt Jemima is no longer being sold. And yes, I have like 4 bottles at home that will never be used and my kids are not allowed to use, but I took them from, I paid for them. Took them from the store, and it's like, no one else is gonna have these. I'm gonna put these in a safe place. They're gonna be safe. So I wanted to show that whole Aunt Jemima. So I don't even have to put her on the bottle because we all know what it is. And you can make up your mind what that knife is about. But that image for me holds a lot of anger, but it also holds a lot of, I give up. Like, do what you want to do. I'm gonna just carry on with my life and dislike you. This was actually the final piece I did. And it was inspired by my son, who at that time was doing graffiti, not on the streets, right? So
I'm not saying.
he was doing graffiti. And so originally he had written Porch Monkey in his style. Unfortunately, I had to change it. But I had to have banana in this show somewhere because banana is associated with Black folk, associated with monkey, which is also associated with the Black folk. You see it in memes, again, very hurtful. But I wanted a very 1990s hip hop look. Partly because I am a product of the 1990s when I was old enough to enjoy the 1990s with the whole Run DMC look and just eating a banana without a care in the world. So again, some of these are based in fun and some not so much. I've looked at these for so long that it's hard to remember what's out there. The last piece that I want to talk about, and then there can be questions if there are any. The last piece is the 50%, which I understand a lot of people may not get, but way back, let's just say 60s, when you're thinking about sororities or clubs, you had to pass a test. It was called the paper bag test. And your skin had to be lighter than that paper bag. Now, some days my skin can be lighter than that paper bag. Sometimes a lot darker, especially in the summer, because skin does change color. So the 50% is just, I can go either way, or I can pass. I thought I could pass, and I don't think I can. My son is shaking his head. I don't want to pass. I'm through creating this work, one thing that I have come to realize or to celebrate is that I am a strong Black woman. I am going to continue creating work that may be hurtful, but that also shows the pride. I'm a mother of 2 Black children. I wasn't taught this, but I am teaching my kids how to navigate through this world because it is so important. So my kids have watched me create this. They've watched me cry while I'm creating this, because one can't help but bring up old memories and feel sad and feel intense anger when creating this. And it will go, for me, it goes in waves. Is it over? No, it's not. I know that when I finished this, it was a sense of loss. What do I do now? Like, I've spent 1.5 years working on this piece. I've spent 1.5 years thinking about it. So I did what most artists do. I went home and started a new series. So I don't know where it will take me. I'm excited about the prospect. I'm excited that people are seeing my work. I'm excited that I'm no longer just, giving paintings for member shows of fruit. I mean, I do love painting me a good fruit and vegetable, but it has no personal meaning to me. So I do that kind of work now when I need a break from the hard work. This is the hard work that I want to do. Thank you.